but Bitcoin has been crashing for months. Why?
I think there's a number of factors at play. I think the main factor is if you think of the marginal investor in Bitcoin, the average person, the adoption, right? Those people have seen prices rise 10% in terms of their everyday cost of living, but the wages haven't gone up that much. So what you've taken is marginal consumption away, or their ability to invest, stick a few more dollars into Bitcoin. That has left the market. We've seen network growth slow down. The other thing that happened was obviously the Chinese left the market. And so that's left the market in a slightly less stable way because you've taken out a whole bunch of demand. Now, there are plenty of Chinese still in the market, but you took out a lot of that. So with those two factors and then kind of sort of fear of the tightening of monetary policy and what that could do to other financial markets, if you think there's new participants in this now, there's people like hedge funds. And if they're one portfolio is blowing up, they end up having to reduce risk elsewhere. So everything starts becoming a bit correlated. So I think those were the primary drivers behind what's been going on.
I recently heard that you only hold one Bitcoin now. My question is, why?
You know the answer to this. Generally speaking, listen, I understand there's a philosophy to the space and people want there to be, Bitcoin at the base center of money, and that may end up playing out over time. But my job is as an investor, not a philosopher. And my job as an investor is to look for better returns. So a long time ago, about a year and a half ago, I switched most of my Bitcoin holdings into ETH, and then I bought a basket of alts to get different exposure to different parts of the market, because you don't really know what's going to get traction and what's not. So over time, I continued to reallocate my Bitcoin into ETH. I always wanted to keep a bit of Bitcoin because you want to, cheer for the team as well. But also, the thing that I get Bitcoin maxes hate me for is like, this is a network and a community. If you are fundamentally awful to people joining your community, people want to leave. And that's just a matter of fact. And if you get picked on every time you say anything that could possibly be perceived as anything negative on Bitcoin, then you, after a while, you think, why even bother? Now, you'd bother if it was outperforming, but it's not. And I think the network growth in Bitcoin has been slower than people have expected, and this is one of the reasons. I mean, institutions just don't like this kind of stuff. The toxicity that can exist. I mean, there's tons of good people in Bitcoin. And, I understand the philosophy. And if that's your point of view on the philosophy, great. But don't attack other people, because then it becomes like a religion. And they become exclusive and not inclusive if you're not careful. And that's the issue I had. So I always want to retain some Bitcoin, but it's not going to be my core holding unless I think it's going to outperform, which I don't think it will.
They believe Bitcoin will reach at least $500,000 per coin, equating to the market cap of gold. Would you agree with that possibility as well?
Yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Very cool.
And how do you think it gets there?
Yeah.
It gets there, I think. I don't think it's going to be as much retail adoption. I think that moves elsewhere within the crypto Web3 kind of world. I think it's actually going to be driven by sovereign wealth funds, large asset allocation, stuff of that type. I think we're only just starting to see that. But if it holds true to its hypothesis that it is a base layer of money, then really it should be for those who accumulate base layer of money, people like sovereign wealth funds, central banks, and others. Because in theory, if that's correct, then it's a less speculative or risky asset, therefore it has less returns over time. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that.